So childhood is peppered with little white lies and illusions where the parents don't want to sort of make full disclosure because they don't think the child can handle, you know, that level of explanation. It's too scary. Or that it's a gentle, enchanting myth to preserve, such as Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny. But there comes a point at which the child penetrates this illusion and realises that it's mummy or daddy who are dressed in a red and white robe, filling their Christmas stocking or sneaking in at night to swap the tooth under the pillow for some money. And how does the parent manage that transition? Well, in the main, they probably don't. It's probably a sort of a metaphorical pat on the head, well done, on to the next stage of development. But there has to be some sort of acknowledgement and explanation of this illusion, why it happened, and that it's now fully over. So if you take the case of Santa Claus, you know, you might lay out the Christian tradition of saints and talk about St. Nicholas, and the long folkloric tradition of rewarding children for a year of good behaviour with toys and other rewards. But what you probably won't do is disclose the fact that the image we have of Santa Claus as this sort of florid-cheeked, white-bearded, red-caparisoned man is a product of a 1927 Coca-Cola advertising campaign. And that's why Santa Claus wears red and white, because it's the livery of Coca-Cola. Equally with the Tooth Fairy, you might lay out how the loss of your first milk tooth is so important as a sort of developmental stage that if you have a baby book, that tooth will end up in there because there'll be a pre-selected envelope for it. How Vikings often wore about their person articles from children, including shed teeth, when they went into battle. Of the notion of fairy and folklore, which has a very long and strong tradition and history, but again, which has sort of been condensed in our imaginations through the work of Walt Disney, and how in the Tooth Fairy myth that has been merged with the notion of the tooth mouse, because primitive people recognise that mice and rats, their teeth never stops growing, and they're only kept under control through the mouse and the rat eating, which keeps the tooth ground down. And that if the rodent is starving because it can't find any food, the tooth grows and grows and grows until eventually it will penetrate their brain. Now obviously that is too much information to share with your child, but again it sort of highlights the you know, where these myths come from, how they mutate, how they grow and develop, and how they get made anodyne through media like film and TV and advertising and things like that, none of which a parent will go into with their child, because it's supposed to be a very simple, innocent thing. You know, Crocodile Dundee. He wears a shark's tooth necklace, and in his hat are lots of alligator teeth. So if a child is sat there watching the film, you know, because children have wonderful imaginations and creative minds, the child may turn around to the parent and go, oh, so is Crocodile Dundee the Tooth Fairy for alligators? And so I took that point of the fact that a child has agency in this to explore, you know, this transition of piercing an illusion. You know, what does it lay down for the future for the child? You know, it might allow them to think that they can lie. Even, you know, do they appreciate the difference between a white lie, you know, which is for the benefit of the person you're lying to protect them in some way, to, you know, gross out and out lies, or to even betrayals. You know, on some level the parent has betrayed the trust of the child by pretending that there's this third sort of being called Father Christmas, but in fact it's mummy or daddy. Now each child will subjectively react differently, so it's not an across-the-board innocence, and that has to be borne in mind. So I wrote this, you know, one of the stories in Stories We Tell Our Children is called The Truth Fairy, where the boy in the story has penetrated the illusion but doesn't share that fact with his parents. They believe that he is still under the enchantment of the illusion, because the boy is creative and an agent in his own right, that he turns the knowledge that he has and his parents don't have to his own pecuniary advantage. So one must bear in mind there is a whole spectrum of, the notion of lie, deceit, trust, illusion. And of course children can fit anywhere along that spectrum, but bear in mind that there will be some on the far edges of it who will feel betrayed.